Fiona, dopo che è uscita dalla prostituzione, ha fondato uno sportello d'ascolto telefonico che si chiamava Street Exit e dal 96 ha poi collaborato con Irene Hillison, che era una donna a cui avevano ucciso la figlia era stata prostituita, era stata uccisa da un cliente, e aveva fondato questa associazione che si chiamava Coalizione per la fine dei papponi, e Fiona ha collaborato con lei, hanno fatto campagne contro lo sfruttamento sessuale in tutta l'Inghilterra e ha portato la sua testimonianza anche alle Nazioni Unite in altri sedi internazionali, e dal 2016 è fondatrice anche di un progetto, di un'importante impresa sociale che si chiama Build a Girl, e lavora quindi con giovani donne dai 9 ai 18 anni, bambine e giovani donne a rischio di sfruttamento sessuale o che hanno avuto esperienza di sfruttamento sessuale. Quindi adesso do la parola a Fiona. Grazie.
Sì. Good evening, and thank you for inviting me to Rome to speak about this really, really important issue. At the tender age of 15, my childhood was robbed when I met a trafficker who took me from the north of England to the south of England, coerced me onto the streets, and introduced me to hell. I lost my identity that very day. I disassociated from myself that very day. And it was a further 11 years before I exited hell. My occupational hazards daily were rape. I suffered beatings every day. I earned my pimp about £200 a day, and I never even expected him to give me any money. He had done a very good job of making me feel worthless, as had the men who bought me every day. There were about 10. That was the lowest number. The police arrested me when I was 16 and a half years old. I was stood with my perpetrator. They said good evening to him and used his first name and arrested me. They took me to the police station. They charged me with being a common prostitute and then bailed me to his parents' address. He was in his 30s. When the police returned me to the address, they shut the door, my pimp's parents closed the door and beat me up. I attended juvenile court 3 weeks later on my own, and I was remanded in a lock-up unit for girls on the orders of the judge, so that I could be, so that they could do a social assessment. Thanks, Julie. I'm speaking slowly. They gave me head lice cream for my hair. They gave me scabies cream for my body. And they gave me an internal examination to see if I was diseased. I kicked the nurse. and I was labelled a violent person and segregated most of the time from the other young women. I eventually managed to escape from my perpetrator. Well, in fact, he left me for dead. I was hospitalised on a mental health ward, on a mixed sex mental health ward, and I was sexually assaulted by a male patient. Eventually, I signed myself out of that hospital. It was not doing me any good at all. But I returned to prostitution. I thought I made a choice. Only every night I bathed in disinfectant. So I was controlled for 5 years by a pimp. But I worked for myself for 6 years. Worked for myself. I thought it was better than working in an office for £2 an hour. I convinced myself of that. One day, while I was preparing to go to the brothel, I turned on the news and my cousin's face came on the news, and it was a mugshot. I'd had plenty, so I knew what they looked like. She'd been found murdered. She was 17 years of age. She had been groomed into prostitution at the age of 14. The sex buyer who murdered her, actually, the bastard who murdered her, had just been released from prison. He murdered a 19-year-old young woman in prostitution, and he was given 2 years on the grounds of provocation. He came out of prison and murdered my cousin, Maureen. I have never sold sex since that day. I have fought tirelessly to get people to understand that prostitution is not a job like any other. That prostitution dehumanises you as the victim, the person. I'm not a victim now. I'm surviving. I was 50 last Friday. Woo! I can honestly say I only have just started to love myself. It's taken decades to get there. I have a beautiful son. He knows his penis. He can control it. He knows he should never, ever, ever use it as a weapon. Many barriers to employment because of my criminal record. It's 8-page, double-sided document. It's an 8-page, double-sided document. In January this year, I held the state to account in the Royal Courts of Justice in the UK. I won the case to get my record cleared. However, that was not my intention. My intention was to get every woman's record cleared. I was back in the court, in the Royal Courts of Justice in June, because the state have appealed my win. But I will fight till I get the result that every woman, every girl and woman who has been wrongly convicted for being common prostitutes are cleared and have their name cleared. The other thing that happened in the past few years, I now am the CEO of the Build a Girl project. I am working back in the community that I was raised in to build strong girls, feminists, and no man will ever get anywhere near them girls. Believe me. They'll have to get through me first. They are making really, really good choices. They're very poor, it's a very poor community. So it's exactly where the pimps go to pick the girls. But one has just gone to university. 3 generations of her family have not even been employed. And she has gone to university to be a social worker. I'm in a good place. I dedicate the rest of my life to fighting to end this abuse of women and girls and some boys and men, and raise feminist girls and hopefully change the culture for men too. Thank you.